The only truth about PYRIN here in the video. Welcome to the Crypto Owl, a project that announced yesterday that it is shutting down, and the price has plummeted by over 80%. And that led many people to say that this is literally a scam and that nothing is happening here. So they scammed us here, just pulled the rug and led us on. I want to tell you in this video about the one point where one could say this might have been the scam, and before that, there was none, by revealing the truth behind PYRIN. There was a founding team of several people who are no longer involved in this project, at least the very first founders. I will tell you shortly who else is still part of it. Now, it is important to know who is still involved with the project and who has since left. This original founding team no longer exists in the PYRIN project. One had an idea and saw that the Casper Go stack is a wonderful foundation to launch a project. But one problem that the Casper developers have not had so far was the idea for a smart contract. And it was exactly this idea for smart contracts that PYRIN wanted to improve. Quickly bring it out. Then, the first person was brought on board. Namely, Now is the person who came in with an idea and was essentially brought in as an architect to this original founding team. Then, the chief developer brought in IDO, and these two are the current individuals at the center of attention. Specifically, a chief developer and an architect to build this entire structure. Here, a crypto project called PYRIN was built around this construct. This idea of creating faster and better smart contracts than perhaps those that might come out with Casper, or even those that might come out with Casper at all, along with its own cryptocurrency, PYI. And after the entire founding team eventually left because Ador and Now did not deliver what they were supposed to, they were asked to show what they actually had, what the current status was. They were evasive and so on. And then the founding team said goodbye. Another person was brought in who did a bit of marketing, but they also left after a short time. At the end of the day, IDO and Now are still in this team and have founded an Israeli company, from which they have operated their mining and have kept everything running. It was established as a decentralized project, where initially one could think that anyone who engages in mining could join this decentralized project as a miner and, of course, earn money from it. This new proof-of-work blockchain naturally led to many miners joining this network in 2001, which increased the hash rate, and as a result, the price also rose. One has seen that everything is becoming increasingly decentralized, and the idea of fast, smart contracts, which were not yet present at Casper at that time, naturally led to a hype. At the same time, a partnership was established with Microsoft, which allowed for the operation of servers at a low cost, meaning that one could run their own miners and rent servers for the website and wallet. At some point, however, these ongoing costs, despite the Microsoft partnership and support, became so high that the servers were shut down. The website, which is a small server, is of course still online, but the server for the wallet is now offline. This naturally leads to a complete loss of trust, which is absolutely understandable. So it is clear that there are problems here. In the meantime, Maxi has even gone after this issue, after this drastic price loss, and has partially dealt with the wallets with PYRIN, especially where many PYRIN are involved. Pi tokens are frozen, and efforts are currently being made to release them. This means that we can see here that the current idea of smart contracts combined with a new proof-of-work blockchain has led to a huge hype, making the project PYRIN become widely known. So far, everything is clean, everything is fine. Now we come to the point where we have to say that we can actually talk about the topic of scam. Rugby, but that is always in the eye of the beholder. At some point, it was decided to make a hard fork from PYRIN to a new PYRIN, and anyone who goes along with this hard fork is part of it. Thus, the miners are also involved in this new PYRIN. This hard fork was carried out by Edu Now and also voted on by the community. The community voted in favor, and all miners switched to this new chain. This new hard fork, and in this vote included that there is a 30 million PY developer fund, which IDO and Now could then use for the development of PYRIN. Of these 30 million, it is alleged, as far as one can trace, that 5 million PYI have already been sold. And here comes the point. Until now, PYRIN was clean, a completely normal project. Any miner could join, everything was fine. But at the moment, when one makes a hard fork, even if it was voted on by the community, One creates money for oneself, in this case 30 million Pi, which one can then sell or do whatever one wants with because it was a developer who found it. The two were the developers, so they can do whatever they want. Then, of course, the moment comes when one says, now we are at a point that is no longer quite clean. Meanwhile, it is the case that this Israeli company, led by Now and IDO, does exist, but both are heavily conflicted. IDO was the person who wrote this message in the last video I published about PYRIN, saying that we are stopping the whole thing. Now was not affected by it at all. It didn't actually say, here, we are stopping, but IDO took a quick shot forward, and that led to Piranha dropping hard, with the price falling almost 90% in this case. So this dispute between these two is actually the big problem. To restore trust, they are now trying to recover those 30 million PYRIN in this developer wallet. Currently, as seen in the last message, there are only 24,000 Sudo 1. One person has 10 million on Maxi, which is now frozen by Maxi. As a result, the person can't get through at all. Maybe this message is related to a picture of a message from a Maxi chat where there are 34 people in the Maxi listing. That's pretty intense. In the end, this has led to attempts to somehow recover these 10 million PYRIN, to return them to these wallets, to show that, hello, the 30 million are still there. And this is, as mentioned, the point where one says, yes, we have newly created tokens, the developers could do whatever they wanted with them, and some of them were sent to exchanges, which of course does not inspire trust. To sum it all up, we had an idea, but it failed in the implementation because somehow this implementation just didn't work. Then there was this vision, which required years of development, this PI work or proof of AI work, which was essentially supposed to convert mining power into better rewards, and in principle, could also make the blockchain faster and more efficient. So this whole vision was indeed present, but it was more in the background. The initial hype was generated by the smart contracts, which were supposed to arrive faster than with Casper. And this could lead to projects that might be on the Casper Go's deck potentially switching to PYRIN. That was the first hype triggered by this grand vision of PYO. And at the end of the day, it is a significant amount of developer work. However, this vision does not lead to the major breakthrough we have seen here. So we see that it was actually a big mistake to carry out this fork, where one created PY for themselves, and perhaps also the issue of tokenomics, which was fundamentally a problem, but which always leads to discussions in every project. Then it was seen that in the latest announcements, things were mentioned such as SDK, PYRIN Swap with its own token, and the roadmap was released again. But my personal opinion is that this was actually meant to distract from what was really happening in the background, namely the dispute and disagreement between these two developers who are still involved in this project at all. Now, the names have already become known. One of them, Now, didn't want the whole thing to be public, but by now, his LinkedIn profile picture is circulating through all the social media accounts reporting on PYRIN. IDO has doxed himself, meaning he has made himself public and said, this is me, this is what I look like, revealing the company that is now behind it. So the whole thing has become public, and by now there are additional names that have been associated with it. And I have now told myself to be careful. All the information I have, I will now make public to show that these are the people who are currently involved and all the others who have been connected here. So I've already heard some wild names from a person from Austria, a person from France, and even a person from the USA. So names are being thrown in here that, in my opinion, and based on what I know about PYRIN, have nothing to do with it. So the big question is, who is ultimately involved in this? I can tell you that IDO and Now, in the current situation, along with these 30 million PYRIN, are currently found as developers, some of which are frozen on Maxi, because Maxi also found the whole situation suspicious and said, wait a minute, this looks like a scam, so let's freeze the large wallets to avoid any severe or further selling pressure, so that the project doesn't end up completely worthless. This is currently very worthless, as we can see. We see this drastic red candle from yesterday and clearly observe the announcement that IDO made, stating that we are shutting down PYRIN. This definitely ensures that the project will now be dead for the time being. In any case, these are the things I know that have been brought to my attention regarding PYRIN. And I mentioned that I had contact with one of the developers and had looked into the whole thing. And I was also told that the topic of smart contracts, which were supposed to launch like Casper, was being presented in a positive light. And for me, that was the reason to say, look, PYRIN sounds great at first. And if everything turns out to be true in the end, and it has been a clean deal so far, everything was clean around this project, but this hard fork, from that point on, one could have said, wait a minute, something is not right here. When the developers suddenly put 30 million into their own wallet, it's quite curious, but the community voted for it. And the miners fully supported this path, meaning the hard fork, so that the original Piranha no longer exists, and now only this hard fork remains. This is the truth, the original truth about PYRIN. That's why we are not trying to find any names here. These two, with an Israeli development company, IDO and Now, are currently here and need to prove to us that these 30 million tokens are still there to ultimately show that it wasn't a scam or that there are even 5 million missing in the end. Then one could really say, wait a minute. From this point of the hard fork, things started to look a bit strange around this project. Feel free to share your opinion on this topic in the comments. Spread this video, share it with everyone who is interested in the PYRIN project and who may still be invested in it. In this sense, I want to thank you all for watching and see you in the next video.